Holden, on this episode of That One Movie Podcast, we are going to take a look back in the year 1984. Dune, this hot new sci-fi, not Star Wars ripoff. Has just hit the big screen. We will take a look at that. We will dive in, have a spoiler-filled discussion. But beforehand, Holden, we are going to chat about this year's Oscars, our favorite movies of 2023, because March is the best time to talk about last year's favorite movies.
Absolutely, yes.
Of course, use the time codes down in the description to jump to any of those segments of the show. But before we do even all that, we are going to talk about some news from this week in the world of entertainment. Holden, our top stories include...
Yeah, we're going to be talking about the trailer for Late Night with the Devil. We're also going to be talking about the Batman having a release date change, and the Rogue Squadron is apparently being worked on again.
Yes, so likely. The Batman 2, by the way.
Batman 2.
Because the Batman has already been released.
Yes, yeah, the release date of that will not change. It's history.
It's history. Great. Awesome. Again, use the time codes down in the description to jump to whatever part of the show you want to watch, listen to, or stick around for the whole thing. Hang out with us. I'm Jimmy Youthy.
I'm Holden Sutter.
And it's time for TOMP.
TOMP. That One Movie Podcast.
TOMP.
All right, Jimmy, before we talk about the original Dune movie, let's do the Toms.
Let's do the TOMS.
The Toms. Toms is the rapid fire segment in which we rate the news of the week in the world of entertainment on a scale of three famous Toms: Brokaw, Bombadil, and Bergeron. Brokaw's the highest, Bombadil's the lowest, Bergeron is somewhere in between. Jimmy, let's get to it.
There we go.
You got it.
Somewhere in there, I did that well. Audio-only listeners will never know.
Never know how
They'll
well he
never
does it.
know the art, the craftsmanship that goes into the Tom popsicle stick presentation.
They're quite good.
This
Quite
is
well
why
cut
you got to
out.
watch on YouTube, folks.
Yeah, there's a lot you gain from the visual medium.
Feed the algorithm. The algorithm is the spice.
Yes.
Power
Spice
over the
melange.
algorithm is power over all. The spice melange.
First off, Jimmy, we have a trailer for Late Night with the Devil. This actually, there was like a teaser for this about a month ago it came out and people were really interested in it because it's kind of interesting concept. Seems to be a late night talk show host in like the 70s, going through like an exorcism of some sort. But then we got this bigger trailer. It's been shown off at some festivals, been getting some positive buzz. So figured we'd talk about what'd you think of the trailer?
Well, first off, thought it was funnier than Fallon. No, I think this looks really fun. I think it looks really good. I'm intrigued. I love the whole aesthetic of this talk show, or the whole concept of the talk show going wrong, but then the aesthetic of it taking place in the 70s. The live television looking as if it is like someone stumbled up, like this is somebody's recorded VHS tape. Although VHS wasn't around yet in the 70s, was it?
No, but yeah.
Some sort of tape recording of this.
Yeah, it's
film.
It's I get the impression that it's probably all going to be shot in that style for the most part, aside from maybe occasionally. But it looks pretty contained with that. Looks great. David Desmalkian, is that how you say his name?
I have no. David Dalmatian.
Yeah, I never remember how to say his name, but he's always a great supporting actor. So seeing him as a lead is interesting. So that'll be kind of cool. The concept of having someone like bring on like this girl who needs an exorcism is a kind of fun concept. I mean, one of the kind of blurbs in the trailer describes it as a mix between Rosemary's Baby meets Network, I think.
Yeah.
And I've seen Network, and I can see what the comparisons there with it just being this guy who's like only concerned about getting ratings no matter the cost and everything. So that could be interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Very, very interesting looking movie.
Yeah, I mean, as someone whose favorite part of Nope was the whole monkey live sitcom thing. Things going wrong on live television is fantastic. I mean, we just had the Oscars. We just had Al Pacino. Which we'll talk about in depth later on. But yeah, no, I think this looks great. I think it was a very well-made trailer that doesn't really give anything away. Exorcism stuff is, it's pretty it's a well trotted ground. What's the phrase?
Yeah, they've done it before.
Yeah, they've done it a lot in horror. So something like Exorcist. What the heck was that movie
Believer?
called? Exorcist Believer? Is that
yeah, I think so.
Jeez. I can't even remember the name of that movie. That had nothing. That exorcism in that movie was just the most nothing thing to happen in a movie. So, we've had The Conjuring, we've had all these other things. How is this going to differentiate itself other than just the setting? Can it still throw some curveballs, keep us on our toes, and provide that entertainment factor? So I'm excited. Fingers crossed. I think this could be really, really good popcorn horror flick at the movies that I just love. I mean, Barbarian is one of my favorite movies of the decade. So I love me some good, weird horror comedy nonsense.
Yeah, exactly. And this one is it's seemingly going to Shudder at some point. I don't know if it's getting a theatrical release before
AMC
that or
Plus
not.
too.
Yeah,
apparently.
well, they're like connected.
Which is AMC Plus is the worst of them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, new Better Call Saul episode. You can watch it for like 2 weeks and then it's gone.
Yeah.
What's the point of this?
Yeah. But Shudder, I quite like Shudder. So even if it's straight to Shudder, I think I still pay for it, even though I probably don't use it enough to justify it. But it's a good service for horror. So.
Hello, Holden Shudder.
Nice.
I'm Sean Connery. Hi, Shudder. Yeah. Are we talking about Shudder or Shudder?
Shudder. But for me, I think this trailer's a Brokaw.
Yes, Holden's last name is Sutter. There we go. Brokaw. If you are not a long-term listener, there you go. And even if you are, I guess you did say that at the beginning. So.
Yeah, I always say that at the beginning.
Brokaw, the highest rating from me, Holden. There we go.
Sweet.
Looks good.
Next up, Jimmy, The Batman Part 2 has been delayed another whole year to October 2026.
Well, you know what? Part 2 being delayed a whole year. Wait, no, that was Part 1. I was going to say Part 2 delayed a whole year is not horrible because we got Dune Part 2 and that was great.
Yeah.
But Part 1 was the one that was delayed a whole year.
It was. I think Part 2 is also, I feel like it was originally supposed to come out this year or something, and then it was delayed to 2025 at some point. This would have been
the Batman.
Yeah,
the Batman Part 2.
To clarify, yeah.
Who knows? I don't know. Remember, first off, it took the first one forever to come out as well because they had that teaser trailer back in 2020.
DC Fandom.
2019. When was that?
Yeah, well, they came out 2022.
2020 then was that when we got that trailer?
I
want to say it was summer of 2020.
Yeah.
And it was like 2022
right there,
or late. It was late 2021. I don't know. Early 2022, February, right? I don't know.
Something like that.
These movies are taking forever to make.
Yeah.
That's all I got to say.
Yeah.
But be good.
The reasoning for this is given that it was like due to the film being behind schedule with the script due to like the writers' strikes and everything, which, makes sense. It's that's affecting everything, but yeah, it just stinks this is taking so long. Robert, I think I saw something that Robert Pattinson's going to be like 40 when this comes out or something.
Yeah, I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, but he'll be fine, but just crazy that so much of his life is going to be attached to this probably.
Yeah, well, if you start watching the first one right now, it might be done by the time Part 2 comes out.
Yeah.
Oh, good one. It's a long movie.
I do think that's like the weakest. That on rewatch, that movie is definitely way too long. I think
I still have only seen it the one time.
I saw it the second time. I did not like it as much. But that's the main reason why.
It's a great score, Holden. I cannot believe that
It's the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
It's not that interesting to me.
John Williams called Jaws is that way too.
Yeah. That's fine. I don't know.
Jaws
isn't like my favorite film score.
Other things to it, Holden. It's really good. I think it's the best Batman theme.
Interesting. Well, you can believe that, Jimmy. I'll let you believe it.
Hans Zimmer's is the third best.
What's
fourth best?
Second best.
Second best, I would say, is Danny Elfman.
Yeah.
Maybe third. No, I was going to say the animated series, but isn't that just
that's
the Danny Elfman? Third best is the Arkham one.
I don't remember the Arkham one. It's probably good.
It's on the tip of my tongue.
I'll believe you. But Batman Part 2 getting delayed. Let's give it a Bombadil.
Sure, fine. Bombadil. I want this movie to come out.
I'm selfish. I want it to come out, even if this is for the betterment of everyone involved.
Yeah, I want crunch. I want you to be
crunch.
Yeah,
I want my content, and I want it now. Okay,
there we go.
Next up, Jimmy. Scream 7. The movie.
Sorry, I'm the guy who takes everything literally. I'm just on a roll today.
You are.
People have tuned out.
So the movie that's had a lot of issues as of late is now bringing back Neve Campbell as Sidney Prescott, which is like the most predictable thing, most predictable move given everything that's happened. It's going to be written by Guy Busick, who was a co-writer on the previous 2 movies, and directed by Kevin Williamson, who is the writer of 1, 2, and 4, as well as like co-creator of the series. He's like the big guy behind it, aside from like Wes Craven.
Okay.
So.
Jenna Ortega's not in this anymore, right?
Her and the lead, Melissa Barrera, both not in it anymore. I don't know about any of the other kids.
Yeah, why would you want Jenna Ortega, the hot actress, to get now when you could have your actress who doesn't want to do these anymore unless you give her a ton of money?
Yeah. Which, Neve Campbell's great in these movies, and it's, that is her thing. It was a shame she wasn't in the 6th one, but yeah, it's very much a desperate move. They're just like probably conceding to whatever amount she wanted or something, just to get her back. They need something to have people interested in it.
Yeah, good for her getting the bag. I'm gonna Bombadil for this because they're just grasping at straws.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too.
I didn't even really like 6 all that much. People like that one. I liked 5 quite a bit, just seeing it the one time.
I can't remember which I said I liked more. They were about on even ground, I think, for me.
People are like 6
more than 5.
I don't know. I just feel like they blew it. And Scream is supposed to be the epitome of self-awareness in movies, and they seem to be completely lacking it at this point, which is a horrible sign for a movie that's supposed to be very meta. So that's why I'm at a Bombadil Holden, the lowest rating for me.
Yep. We'll probably see it regardless. Rogue Squadron, Jimmy. Apparently
it's still not going to be made.
Yeah, I still don't think so either.
The Patty Jenkins Star Wars movie, the next Star Wars movie that's coming out, that was supposed to come out in 2023.
Yeah, end of this last year, actually. That's crazy. Because I remember when that was like first announced, it seemed like so far away. And now it's come and gone. It just never happened. So,
well, Patty Jenkins is like, well, you know what? Wonder Woman 3 is not happening, guys. Oh my gosh. Huge news. Nobody could see that coming. So I'm going to pivot to a movie that is going to be made.
Denis Villeneuve he's Rogue making Squadron. The Cleopatra movie now.
Yes. Yes. The only hesitation I have for the Cleopatra movie is that it's written by the Napoleon guy.
Oh.
Which I thought that was a big swing and a miss. And for I don't know, to focus on the relationship there, I think took away from that movie. However, I think Cleopatra, her story is totally tied to the 2 relationships that she has with Mark Antony and Julius Caesar. So we'll see. That's a different story though, because we're talking about Rogue Squadron.
Yeah.
Again, Top Gun Maverick is going to be the best fighter pilot movie ever made.
Yeah.
And it literally, it's we talked about this one at the time and when we reviewed the movie, but it's the story. Just replace the thing they have to do in Top Gun Maverick, the mission, with the trench run in Star Wars. And that's what it is.
Wars, yeah.
It's just them training for the trench run. So you could, if you did that and tried to do it Star Wars, it's just is not going to be as good. It's going to be a ripoff of Top Gun Maverick. And we've already seen it done to the best, the best of their ability there. I just don't see this being able to reach those heights.
Well, and obviously a big part of Top Gun Maverick was the practical plane stunts and maneuvers and everything.
There's a lot of CGI in there, but a lot of it
very seamless, the blend of CG and practical stuff, and it looks great. But you can't really do that for a space pilot movie very easily. Yeah. It's certainly not going to be as impressive in that regard.
No, they're going to be in a cockpit flying around in the volume. Oh, and they're just going to move around the volume. And that'll be, that'll look good, but what are you going to do?
Yeah.
And there's only so much space that you can space is only so interesting. You need to add some atmospheric things. So either you need to like take the fighter, this X-Wings, and fly them in the atmosphere of a planet, or they got to be, doing a trench run. And so, because if you're just out in space, that's not interesting. There's nothing like, I guess you're flying in between other starships, but
I think like the most interesting way you could go about this is make this like the Star Wars equivalent of like a war film, like a World War II movie or something. Like make a Saving Private Ryan, but in space or something. Yeah. Like that could be like an interesting concept. We haven't had something like that, but otherwise, I don't know. It feels very unnecessary in most regards.
If it's a very grounded, mature movie that takes an Andor approach where it's like, wow, the gray of war.
Yeah.
I just am so skeptical based on, the other movies Patty Jenkins has made.
Well,
I would love to be proven wrong.
Well, especially for a movie that's presumably going to be, if it ever happens, going to be theatrically released. Like you're going to want it. Disney's going it to be as wide appealing as possible. So like Andor is, a bit more mature. Sure, kids could still watch it, but like clearly the intended audience is adult. But it's also a streaming show, so it matters less. This is going to be a movie. They're not going to probably go with that same approach, I would guess.
I don't think like people just don't care about Star Wars anymore.
No.
You lost them, especially the young generation does not give a lick about Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like I'm a teacher. None of the kids I teach, like 5% care about Star Wars. It is just out of sight, out of mind. And they blew it. Honestly, they blew it. And I don't think Rogue Squadron is the movie that's going to bring him back.
Probably not. No.
Or a movie that's just ever going to be made, since it was supposed to come out several months ago and it has not even been started to be filmed.
Yeah.
So, Patty Jenkins proved me wrong. I would love to see it. I'm very skeptical. Just Bombadil, I guess. I don't know. This is not going to happen.
Yeah.
I said the Flash wasn't going to get made, and it somehow got released, and I thought it was okay.
Yeah,
I didn't think it was as bad as everybody else did, but
I did not like it. But yeah,
but I just was like, how is this not going to just be just endless sinking pit of money for Disney?
Yeah, who knows? Who knows? Probably won't be. It'll probably be a sinking pit of money. Next up, Jimmy. Speaking of another Disney movie coming out, a new Yorgos Lanthimos movie is coming out this year.
What?
June 21st.
Wow.
It's called Kinds of Kindness. I didn't really see a synopsis or anything, but Emma Stone's in it again.
Wow.
Jesse Plemons, Willem Dafoe's back, and more.
I love all three of those people.
Yeah, apparently, so this, Poor Things was apparently in post-production for quite a while. So, a couple years at least. So they, shot this when that was happening. So
wow.
He's already got a new movie in the chamber coming out this year.
Wow.
Good cast. I like those three actors I listed. I think Hunter Schafer's in it too, who I quite enjoy. But yeah, I'm always excited for a new Yorgos Lanthimos movie. Obviously, we both quite liked Poor Things, so it's exciting. And it's the Disney thing was because it's Searchlight again. That's why I made that joke, but
yeah. I see now. Who's Hunter Schafer? What do I know him from?
Hunter Schafer. She's from. She's in Euphoria. She's also. She's in that new. She's in the new Kojima
Hunter
game that's coming out.
Schafer.
I feel like there's some. Oh no, she was in Hunger Games, the new one. She was Cornelius's sister or something.
Oh. You mean Coriolanus?
Coriolanus, not Cornelius.
Coriolanus.
She's really good in Euphoria. That's what I know her best from. But she's good in Hunger Games. But
all right.
Yes.
Okay. Sounds good. Sure. I like Yorgos Lanthimos. I mean, I've only seen Poor Things, and I liked it. So I saw The Lobsters on Hulu or something.
Oh, nice.
So I got to watch that and The Favorite. No, The Lobsters, I don't know. It's on something. The Favorite's on Hulu.
Okay,
whatever.
That makes sense. Yeah, I'll give it a brokaw. Excited. Cool that it's coming out so soon. That's just very interesting.
So is Emma Stone just going to be in all of his movies now?
I don't know. Maybe.
So because she was in The Favorite
situation.
She's in The Poor Thing. Is she the lead? She's gonna be the lead
she was
in
the
there,
first one listed like on the like images they released, so I would assume so, unless it's like an ensemble thing. So.
Congrats to Emily Stone, which is her real name.
Is it really?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe she had to go as there was already someone in the academy as Emily Stone, so that's why she's Emma. I believe. I could just be spreading some falsehoods.
Jimmy, movies we're equally excited about. Venom 3 moved up a few weeks to October 25th. It was coming out in November, but now we also got a title. It's called Venom: The Last Dance.
You know, you may not be aware of the meme, Holden, but it's the Michael Jordan, his documentary, The Last Dance.
Oh,
did you know that much?
Yeah, I did know that.
And so like there's a scene in there. It's the interviews, right? So Michael Jordan's like doing the interview, and there's like a famous meme where it's like, and I took that personally. So I'm just imagining now Venom is going to be that meme, and I took that personally.
Yeah,
and then it's going to like cut to him like biting some guy's head off or licking his face with that long Venom tongue that he has.
See, I wasn't even thinking of that. I was just thinking of that Magic Mike movie that came out last year. That was like Magic Mike's Last Dance.
Yeah,
but you excited for Venom: The Last Dance? What a title! What do you
October 25th. What a way to celebrate my birthday weekend.
That's right.
I got to see. What did I get to see? What did I see for my birthday last year?
Yeah, I thought it was something good.
I feel like Dune. I feel like Dune Part 1 was.
Well, it was going to be Saw, and then Saw got moved.
I don't know. I'm pulling it up here. I'm at a Bombadil, Holden. I don't like either Venom movie. I think they're both quite bad. I don't like them. I don't like any of the Spum movies. Sony
like
Picture, Universal, Marvel.
I like Madam Web because it's funny. Yeah, neither of the Venom movies are like on Madam Web's level.
Killers of Flower Moon is what I got last year.
Oh, okay.
My birthday weekend.
Nice. I'll give a Bergeron, whatever. I'm always like,
golly.
I'm like morbidly excited for this and Craven. So is what it is.
Wow. 2 years ago, I got Black Adam on my birthday.
Oh, every other year then.
Yeah, and I think it was Dune before that. I'm going to quick check.
Oh, good content.
Really good content. Well, actually,
you just skipped it.
Dune. Yeah, it was Dune.
Part 1 of 2.
Then what was the one before that?
Oh my gosh.
We can go to the next story.
Yeah. Next up, Black Mirror, Jimmy. I know you didn't watch the newest
season. It was
season.
Borat's subsequent movie film.
Oh, nice.
Which is
I like that. Black Mirror returning in 2025 with 6 new episodes, but kind of the notable thing about this is apparently one of the episodes is going to be a sequel to USS Callister.
USS Callister?
Yeah, the Black Mirror episode.
Yeah, the one I haven't. Wait, have I seen that one?
That's the one with Jesse Plemons in it.
Is that one of the originals?
I've seen season that 4.
I've seen that one.
Okay.
Yes.
It's like the sci-fi. It's like Star Trek.
I think I've seen that one.
I remember liking that one. That's kind of one of the ones that I think a lot of people would really enjoy.
God, I need to watch a lot of the new ones. Zombieland Double Tap. Also.
Okay. Just keep going back.
Just all of them. We got to figure out which ones were on your birthday, Holden.
Yeah, right.
Actually, usually there's not a movie on your birthday, though.
There's usually not a movie. Sometimes we take a couple gap weeks around Christmas. So sometimes we don't even record then. Yeah, you excited? You excited
Black Mirror,
for this?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I haven't. They took forever to come out with new episodes.
It was like 4 years in between seasons. What was it? 4 and 5, I think, or 5 and 6. Yeah, 5 and 6. So, yeah.
But Holden, they gave us Bandersnatch.
They did. I liked Bandersnatch. Did we review that? Did you watch it?
I did.
I don't remember if we did or not. But
who knows? We've been doing this too long.
I'm excited for Black Mirror. The new season was kind of a mixed bag. There was some really good stuff. There was some kind of not so good stuff, but that's kind of how Black Mirror usually is.
But that is kind of the definition of a mixed bag.
Yep.
Brokow, sure, why not? I haven't seen the new stuff yet. I saw the one where she's a werewolf.
That's right. Yeah, she's a werewolf.
I won't say which one because that's a spoiler.
It's probably the worst one of the season, in my opinion.
And I saw the one. Well, I saw half of the one before I fell asleep with.
Aaron Paul?
No, not Aaron Paul. Gosh, what's her name? The lady.
Don't know.
Oh gosh, Salma Hayek.
Oh yeah. That's like the first
There we
one.
go.
All right.
Incredible content this week, ladies and gentlemen.
Last piece of news though, Jimmy. Ari Aster's next film is apparently going to be a contemporary Western called Eddington. Starring Joaquin Phoenix, Emma Stone, there she is again, Austin Butler, and Pedro Pascal, and more. What a cast.
Wow, I love more.
Yeah, you do love more. I like all these people. Yeah, they're all good. Austin Butler won me over in Dune, even though I didn't really like Elvis that much. He was fine in Elvis, but he was really good in Dune, and I like the other three quite a bit. So Ari Aster, always interesting. Beau is Afraid was a mixed bag, but
some good things in it, some bad things in it.
Some bad things in it. As you could say the definition.
Yeah, I like these people as actors, so we'll see.
I can't wait for it to be just a really weird and messed up Western movie.
Yeah, I hope Austin Butler licks his revolver.
That'd be really cool. That seems like something
I hope he just
do.
plays Fade Rotha.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll give it a Brokaw. Cool.
Sure, I'll give it a Brokaw too. Ari Aster, great director. Yeah, very good.
Some cool stuff. That's it.
There we go.
This week.
Oscars.
I had down here TOMP Eyes. We didn't obviously do that because we didn't go to a movie.
No, we didn't
this
go to a
week.
movie.
But yeah, should we do a break or should we just get into the Oscars?
Let's just go right into the Oscars.
All right.
Dive into this trash can with Oscar.
Yeah. So Oscars happened a week ago as of recording today. And yeah, we went to the State Theater here in town, got invited once again. Thank you to Blake again for inviting us. It's always fun to go. But we were invited for a screening. We were sitting there in the nice comfy seats watching a 3-hour Oscar ceremony. Honestly, I think it was a pretty good ceremony for the most part.
I would
some caveats I'll mention, but
best scripted Oscars.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. For the most part. There's some things that wasn't as big of a fan of, like the actors thing. Remember, like the
for each
actors
category, the 5 people coming out.
Yeah,
people liked that.
Yeah, some people
online.
did like that, and that's.
I'm like, it's.
I get it.
Why? Let's take 5 extra minutes to do this thing that we could do in 60. I like seeing the clips from the movie. Just show the clips.
Show a little clip of like
clip.
the best part of their performance or something that really shows them off, or like 2 clips or something. And it's fun to watch these other actors be really nice and kind of gas each other up. That's fine, but I don't know. It does add just more time to it.
It does, and it's just awkward because it's like, oh, here I am. I'm your best friend doing this, and then, hey, I don't know you. We haven't even talked, but you are good. It's just like the most generic thing said. It's like, oh, you really redefined what it means to be a guy in a sci-fi movie. It's like, this is just nothing.
It makes sense if they like know each other, but yeah, otherwise it's just kind of weird, bizarre. Who knows if they've even seen the movie? It could have just been given
it's
a
not
script.
a sustainable thing too, because it's like, I'm just like, whatever. Who cares?
But I guess we can talk about the ceremony itself before we get into the winners, since there was a lot there. Jimmy Kimmel hosted again, mixed bag, some good, some bad.
Yeah.
As usual, just kind of a mediocre host. Made some weird Robert Downey Jr. jokes that
which I miss. I missed the monologue.
You came, the monologue. A lot of
I missed
the monologue.
most of the monologue anyway.
You came. He was running late, but you came in right after the Robert Downey Jr. jokes. I haven't seen as many people talk about that as I thought they would. There's been some people that pointed out, but it was really awkward.
To
he was
be
like,
fair, there was a lot of other stuff happening.
That's
in this
true.
show.
There was a lot. There was his joke about the German rom-coms. Remember talking about like a Nazi movie or whatever.
Yeah, the Holocaust, Zone of Interest,
I can't
and
remember.
Anatomy of a Fall, German rom-coms.
Yeah, which is just okay.
I guess because they're not funny, so Germans aren't funny.
Yeah, I didn't
more like a Jimmy Kimmel rom-com. Am I right?
There were some good presenters. Kate McKinnon with the Steven Spielberg joke was pretty funny. Sends the nudes to Steven Spielberg.
Boy, yeah, I had forgotten that one.
There's Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger with Michael Keaton.
That was a great bit.
That was good.
John Cena coming out naked.
Yep, that was very funny. And I saw there's like a clip you can find online of someone filming like his quick change. It was really impressive because it was like, he came out to present costume. He said like the nominees for best costume are, and then it comes up and plays all of them. And when it was playing that montage for us at home, he was like, a bunch of people ran on stage and like quick. It was really impressive. So that was cool.
The pit crew.
Yeah. There is John Mulaney.
John Mulaney's Field of Dreams bit.
It's so good. Really I've never seen Field of Dreams, but even I thought it was hilarious. It just like went on too long, but like it was very funny because it went on too long.
It's a bit that you couldn't replicate.
No.
It wouldn't be funny the next time he did it. It would be just like, you're doing the same bit. Unless it was like 10 years from now. Like one every 10 years you can do that.
Made a Madam Web joke too. Yeah. A lot of people saying he should just host the Oscars next year. I think John Mulaney is very funny. I think he would be a very good host. So
yeah, I don't know if he'd want to do it though.
That's kind of the main thing.
Why would anybody want to do it?
Yeah,
I think Jimmy Kimmel probably doesn't want to do it. He's just feels obligated to because it's ABC and
is his show on ABC?
Yeah.
Okay, well then that makes sense.
And then you had all the bits with Messi the dog, Snoop.
Yep.
From Anatomy of Fall was hilarious. Him peeing on Matt Damon's star at the end of the show.
That was really funny.
Him clapping. Both of those bits were really good. Of course, I'm Just Ken. Stole the show.
It was so good. It was a great performance. He went around. He sung with like Greta Gerwig, Margot Robbie. He went up to Emma Stone. That was a big thing.
I liked Billie Eilish in the background. Just could not stop laughing. When he started,
it's pretty good.
And of course, his award presentation with Emily Blunt, was exceptional as well.
That was funny. Well, and were they the ones that read off the stunt? People, that was so weird. They did like a recognition for stunt people thing, and they showed
because they're in the Fall Guy together.
Yeah, which that makes sense,
but. Like, oh, you're so great, stunt people.
Thanks for doing what you do.
All right, no award.
It really did feel like they were going to do like a just surprise award or something. Like it was the building. It was very bizarre. But yeah, that was still funny. But the I'm Just Ken performance, I didn't. So Slash showed up of Guns N' Roses, and I didn't realize he played on the actual song. Apparently, I thought it was just like a random him showing up, but no, apparently he's like in the song. So that was fun. I don't know if you're familiar with the whole like Martin Scorsese's like daughters like putting him on like TikTok and everything. She was there with him apparently, and like there's like a video she took of him like reacting to I'm Just Ken, and he's like really into it. He's like loving it. It's kind of funny. The other songs, the Flamin' Hot one, why was that nominated? That was like 2 minutes long.
So
it was
bad.
Not very good.
It was so bad. You had the moment where the Godzilla people came up with all their little Godzilla toys.
That was fun. They were like the only ones that got played off too. During the night. I saw a comment, I don't know who to attribute it to, but someone was like, especially if they're like making the effort to like try to read it in English and stuff, you should like give them more time, right?
Yeah.
Like it's kind of crummy they don't do that. What else about the ceremony? I don't know.
Well, I mean, Al Pacino at the end. But
So okay.
Apparently, he was supposed to say it with what's her name from The Godfather.
Oh, really?
One of the actresses, but then she couldn't do it last minute. So
like Diane Keaton or something?
Something like that. Okay. And then he had to just do it by himself.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, he went out on his own. He looked like he had just looked like he rolled out of bed. He didn't read the nominees, which apparently he wasn't supposed to, which I think is...
That just was weird. It was just so anticlimactic. I get it because they were showing them throughout the ceremony, but you should at least like say them or something.
Yeah, you don't necessarily have to play clips again, but like because otherwise there's probably inevitably people watching that aren't going to remember all the nominees and everything. And then he just opens it and reads it, and even the people in the audience there like it was like a slow reaction.
And then
it was
the
like
orchestra
awkward.
Started playing.
Yeah. Oppenheimer. All right. Yeah, it was so funny. I was dying. That was so funny.
I was really hoping he was going to say Emma Stone, La La Land.
But I mean, if we think of any other parts, we can mention them, but we can start going through some of the winners.
Yeah, rapid fire, Holden.
Yeah, the short films don't know him, except for I'll mention that Wes Anderson won for best live action with the wonderful
and he wasn't there.
He was not there. But that was a good short film, so cool. Best film editing or best visual effects, Godzilla -1, as we mentioned.
Very nice.
Well deserved, I think.
Yep.
Best film editing, Oppenheimer, to be expected.
Yep, very good.
Best costume design, Poor Things. Which Poor Things took home more than I was expecting.
Yes, Poor Things stole all the Barbie potential.
Yeah,
awards.
Honestly, because I was expecting that, and then production design, which we'll get to.
Which I think Poor Things was better. So
yeah, I do too. But was still sold on Barbie winning. I only got half of my predictions right. I was really distraught for the first half of the Oscars because I was like 1-7, 1-8 for the first half. It was not looking good for me.
Yeah.
Makeup and hairstyling, Poor Things.
Yep.
Which didn't go to Maestro. that was the one I was sure Maestro was gonna get.
You thought Maestro was gonna win that?
I was like,
I mean, it was very good old person makeup.
Mm-hmm. I didn't even necessarily think it was like the best out of everything. I was just like, that was me like thinking what, people made a big deal about his like nose and everything. So I don't know.
Well, when the ghost of he was coming, he came and he put the makeup on me. Mm-hmm. Darling, thank you.
Very good impression. Best cinematography.
Leonard Bernstein, yes. The ghost of Leonard Bernstein inhabited me every day on set. Yeah, that's something so Bradley Cooper did say.
Best cinematography went to Oppenheimer. Well deserved, I think. Best production design, as we said, Poor Things. Best sound, Zone of Interest.
Yes,
very good.
Thank you.
There.
Oppenheimer would have won any other year, I think.
Yeah, and Oppenheimer it was good, but Zone of Interest, that's like the key thing with it. So, best original song was "What Was I Made For" from Barbie and the Billie Eilish
been,
song.
I'm Just Kidding.
I agree. Yeah,
I think that's one that will be like. What Was I Made? It's a good song.
It is a good song.
It's not a weak winner. Like it's a good winner song, but I'm Just Ken it's the song. It was the performance. It's what everybody remembers from the movie.
Yeah. I could be wrong, but I think I read that Billie Eilish is the youngest person to ever win 2 Oscars now, which makes sense. She's like
still
21,
very
22 or
excited to win that other Oscar.
Yeah.
It's like she wouldn't have thought she had won one already.
Yeah.
But
good for her. Best original score went to Oppenheimer, which I think was a very good score. So did not go to Indiana Jones. That's funny. That was nominated. And there's the short films, whatever, documentary. We didn't watch those. International feature went to Zone of Interest.
Yep. It would have been interesting to see if that would have gone to Anatomy of a Fall.
But wasn't even nominated.
Both nominated.
Yeah. That would have been an interesting pair up. Best animated feature, Boy and the Heron.
Yeah.
Which was cool. I probably liked Across the Spider-Verse more personally, but Boy and the Heron's very good and I think deserved. So cool. Adapted screenplay went to American Fiction.
Surprise of the night, maybe?
Yeah.
I mean, it had a lot of momentum. I mean, just getting nominated for Best Picture.
I did tell you when we watched the movie, I was like, this is because I had compared it to Women Talking. I was like, this is like if there's any award this is going to win, it's going to be adapted screenplay.
Did Women Talking win?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, it might have been original for Women Talking, but it's just like they kind of just, I feel like they sometimes give the screenplay awards to movies that don't necessarily win anything else. So, but are still like good. So,
I think it should have been Oppenheimer, probably actually.
That or
because I mean that book is just
Poor
massive. I mean, what he did with that book, to condense that information. I mean, just look at Killers of the Flower Moon. I mean, like
and that wasn't even nominated.
So that's half. That book is half the length of at least. I mean, at most half the length of that Oppenheimer book,
American
whatever.
Prometheus.
Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like Nolan actually maybe got a little snubbed on that. I like American Fiction.
Yeah,
it is well written. I just don't.
It is probably my least favorite out of all the nominees here, though. That's a stacked category, honestly. Adapted screenplay.
Yeah.
Best original screenplay went to Anatomy of a Fall, which we just reviewed last week. My pick, I put Holdovers down for that one. I actually thought Holdovers had a decent shot.
Would have liked Past Lives, I think, for that one.
Yeah, I like Past Lives too.
Past Lives, man. If the Oscars would have been in July last year, Past Lives would have won a lot
of momentum.
But it just lost all the steam. It's crazy how that can happen with movies, and it's just incredible.
And not with some. Like Everything Everywhere last year.
Which came out in April and held it all throughout the whole thing. So it's just weird how that happens. And even Oppenheimer to get Best Picture.
We'll see if Dune 2 can do that for next year.
Golly, I hope so. That would be so great.
Best Supporting Actress was like the easiest one, I think. Divine Joy Randolph from Holdovers.
She was great.
Well
Very
deserved.
wholesome speech, too.
It was great, yeah. Yeah, she was great. Best Supporting Actor, Robert Downey. This is one also I thought was pretty obvious for me. Robert Downey Jr. in Oppenheimer. And he's great in Oppenheimer. Yes. I really want to, that's such a long movie. I want to rewatch it though. And large part of that is due to him. That's a stacked category. I like quite a few people in there.
Ryan Gosling, the greatest living actor, will get his Oscar one day.
He will eventually. Best Actress. This is the kind of surprise of the night for a lot of people, including myself, honestly. Emma Stone winning for Poor Things.
Yeah, I mean, look, I said on the podcast that only seeing them both once, I liked Emma Stone's performance a little bit more. But, you know, well, Emma Stone, she's like, I had nightmares about winning this award.
Yeah,
like she's like, did not. She's like, oh my gosh, I feel like this should be Lily Gladstone. Like she seemed to be expecting Lily Gladstone was going to win it.
Absolutely, the look on her face. I mean, some people are like saying that's due to like her dress malfunction, but I feel like that's so much due to.
I don't know, and it's hard.
Yeah,
we have limited information. Good for Emma Stone. She's a fantastic actress. Lily Gladstone was very good in the Killers of the Flower Moon, so I hope she gets her due because I feel like Emma Stone will be back there again. But you know, that's it's like awards. Should it be like, oh, this person's probably never going to get a chance to win it again? Emma Stone's already got one. Should that go into account, you know, or should it just be by the book what you think is the best, and then that's so subjective?
Looking at it from that angle, like Emma Stone is, I mean, she's going to continue to getting lead. And I was thinking about it this way: she's always going to get like lead roles. Like everyone loves her, and Lily Gladstone, like I think an Oscar could have like really boosted her career. So like. I mean, she's got like I've seen like some roles she's got lined up and stuff that are interesting. There's some like well-known directors she's working with. I can't remember. But yeah, a little disappointed for me personally, but Emma Stone is still great. It was down between those two. So
she was my favorite performance of the year. I would have voted for Emma Stone. I'm a bad guy. I'm sorry. It's my fault. My sway over the Academy.
Yep, your sway over the Academy.
It's all that power I hold.
Then Best Actor went to Cillian Murphy for Oppenheimer. Also, I think I mean, you were hoping for Paul Giamatti, right?
I was hoping for Paul but Cillian Murphy, I mean, seems like a very nice person. Yeah. So good on him. Very humble.
And then Christopher Nolan got his director.
He got his Oscar. He's got two now. He went 0 to 2.
Yeah, right. Because he's also he's a producer on the movie, so he got the Best Picture as well for Oppenheimer. So. Very cool. I think it's, you know, Oppenheimer didn't sweep as much as I was expecting. Honestly, I was kind of expecting.
Still won 7.
Yeah, I mean, it won a lot. It's not to, you know, downplay any of that. But very good movie. Very good lineup at the Oscars this year overall, I'd say. So it was kind of a tough year, but not really disappointed with really any of the winners. If anything, I would say maybe Emma Stone for me personally, but. At the same time, she was great. It's
the bigger categories. I think they mainly got it right here.
Yeah, it was very cool, and especially stuff like some of the smaller ones, like Zone of Interest winning sound and stuff, Godzilla winning visual effects. That's really nice to see because those movies were very good. Really liked them. So. Yeah,
I think this was a great Academy Awards. I think they really like the show itself had so many memorable moments. It was legitimately funny.
Yeah,
I'm gonna give it a Brokaw. Honestly, the whole show. Good job this year. Jimmy Kimmel, all you, man. Way to go.
Yeah, all on Jimmy Kimmel. Yeah, yeah. I'll give it a Brokaw as well. It was a fun Oscars.
They are normally just so boring.
Yeah.
And so unfunny.
One that, you know, aside from the actors things, like I feel like they paced everything out pretty well. They had a good amount of good bits. They didn't have like really any annoying people go up on stage. There wasn't like James Corden and Rebel Wilson coming up in cat costumes or whatever. Like it's just like genuinely good bits. So, liked it.
Very good. Let's talk about our favorite movies of 2023. Our Oscars tradition is now that we've seen all the Best Picture nominees guaranteed, and most of the movies that were on our radar for 2023. I mean, there are some exceptions.
There's some we haven't seen.
I haven't seen The Iron Claw. Okay, I heard it's great.
Yeah.
All right. I haven't seen Bottoms. Okay. Yeah. Haven't seen them. All right. Yeah. I heard they're good. But this is our best top 10 movies of 2023. Holden, do you want to kick us off here with your list?
Sure.
The list to go here?
I'll pull it out. I am pretty sure I remember my number 10 off the top of my head, though, which number 10. I'll explain like we do with all of our lists. I'll go through my top 10. We'll talk about each one a little bit. You can mention if it's in your list and where it's at, and then we'll run through whatever we didn't mention for yours.
Yeah.
And then do some honorable mentions.
And this is our favorite movies, not our like best movies.
Yeah,
like this is not like objectively God says this is the best movie of 2020.
If
it's Christopher Nolan, obviously.
Yeah, that's good. That's good to know going in, because otherwise this might seem out of place for some people, I guess. Number 10, though, I have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Yeah, which is a movie because I went through our podcast to be like, okay, what movies did I see? And that was one that I went through the year 2023 once and missed it. And I went back through to make sure I didn't miss anything. I was like, oh, shoot.
Yeah.
That's a good movie.
Yeah.
It's just under the radar, $700 million really good movie a franchise, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, easily the best Marvel movie that came out last year. No competition, really. Yeah. One of the best Marvel movies to come out in a long time, I would say. Has a lot of heart to it. James Gunn stuck the landing with his Guardians of the Galaxy movies. Everyone in the movies giving it its all. I would say it's the best Bradley Cooper performance of the year. Honestly, not even like joking. He's very good in that movie. Good soundtrack as always, a banger. And I've still only seen it the one time. Great villain too. High Evolutionary. Loved that. I really want to rewatch it. I was going to see it a second time in theaters and never got around to it. So, I have it on my list. I'm going to hide my list from you, Holden. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
What do you have it at number?
I got it at number 9.
Okay, nice.
So really close.
Number 9 for me, Zone of Interest.
Zone of Interest. Yeah, this is I have that number 5.
Okay, yeah, and see, this is where I talk about, like, this is one of the only movies I gave a 10 out of 10 this year, but it's also one of the movies I'm least likely to rewatch a lot. So I have to take that into account to some extent. Great film, though. Really glad it was nominated for Best Picture, so it was on our radar to watch and everything. As you put it when we reviewed it, it's a movie that I feel like everyone should watch at least once. Yeah. It is a tough watch in some regards, so make sure you're in the right mental space for a very just disturbing, depressing movie. But
so glad that it won Best Sound, because this is going to be the textbook example of using sound to tell a story, to set a mood, to stir up certain feelings within your audience in a way that blends the sound effects, like the literal sound effects, with the soundscape that you kind of artificially generate to a horrifying effect.
And it's also like presented in such an interesting way where everything in the movie is kind of always at like arm's length away from the viewer. Like, you're never really put in these characters' shoes, not that you would really want to be at any point, but like everything is even like filmed from quite a ways away, a lot of wide shots and everything. It's just a very unique structure for a movie, I think. So really cool.
Before you go on, one caveat I will say about my top 10 list is that it is so condensed this year. Like, normally I have like, here's like, I like these movies, and then here's the next tier, and then here's the next tier. I feel like basically all my movies are like, they could shift 5 places depending on my mood very easily. And my number 6 is basically the same as my number 1. And, my number 9 is like my number 3. So when I have these ranked
movies this year,
it's just like they were all solid. None of them were the absolute top, my favorite, blow me away experience at the my
top one's easy for me personally, but
like 9 out of 10. I didn't have like my personal 10 out of 10 this year, but I had a lot of 9 out of 10s for me experience. Not to say, but like I said, Zone of Interest was a flawless, amazing movie. I think very, very good. 10 out of 10 in that regard for me. But just like the personal experience, watching it, being just blown away, obsessed coming home sort of thing. And I think that's crazy that I say that. And literally Dune Part 2, I think, is like that movie. I'm like, Dune Part 2 is going to be number 1 for me.
It's going to be hard to be topped.
I've seen it twice. I don't think I saw any movie last year twice.
Yeah.
Which is, it's like already in 2024, we got that, whatever year it is. All right, sorry. Number 8.
You're good. You're good.
I just wanted to say that. So when I say these on my list, I'm like,
that's good.
Really, I could change this order right now. Like, I look at my number 1, I'm like, I don't know. I've only seen these all once. So
I feel like the top couple for me are pretty set in stone, but otherwise it's kind of the same for me.
All right.
Number 8, Killers of the Flower Moon.
Didn't have it on mine.
That's a tough one. once again, the lower ones for me are very hard. There's a lot of the runners up that I'll mention that are very close to being on the list. But especially rewatching, I think the back 2/3, granted it's not a full rewatch, but I really came to appreciate a lot of it even more. And it's just a very, very interesting movie. I think while it is long, you do feel the length. I still think it is like very engrossing throughout. Just especially as someone who didn't know the story going into it, you did. So
yeah, for me, the book was more entertaining because it was like, what is happening here? And then the movie was, here's the story.
Yeah. Yeah, which is fair. And it's presented from a different perspective too, right, than the book. Yeah, really liked it. Another Scorsese movie.
For 10 at the Oscars.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Then for number 7, Poor Things.
Yeah, I put that at number 6.
Okay.
But like, I honestly was like, it could have been number 2. You know, it's like one of those.
Poor Things is great. We talked about it a little bit, but Yorgos Lanthimos, I'm a fan of pretty much all of his movies that I've seen. But this one, it has so much like unique style to it. I love the weird camera work and all the weird like lenses that are used. Emma Stone's great. Willem Dafoe's great. It's very funny, hilarious.
So this is your number 7?
Yeah.
All right, which is funny because it's like, I feel like when we did that review, I came off so much more negative than you did.
Oh, really?
And I have it higher on my list.
Yeah, no, I have so many more movies on here that I just like a little bit more personally.
If Poor Things was the first 2/3 the whole way, like if it ended just after the second act, it would have probably been my favorite movie of the year.
Sure.
But that last third just took it down just a notch. Just a notch.
Ending chunk it just feels a little
It's still really good.
It is good.
Just down a notch though.
Number 6, I have Past Lives.
That's number 4 for me.
Past Lives, I will say, I guess maybe it's not, but it's up there for. It's hard to say if I had my way, I might have given this Best Picture, honestly, out of a lot of the nominees.
I thought it was the best movie of last year.
Well, no, out of the nominees, I would say probably. I just love Past Lives. I've seen it twice now. It really affects me. I love it. I think the characters in it are great. The writing it feels so realistic. I love the deconstruction of this kind of romantic narrative that's been seen a lot before. I think it's really well directed.
I got emotionally stirred when we saw the preview for it before Zone of Interest at the State Theater.
Yeah.
Like I was like borderline like welling up. I'm like, this is just the trailer.
Yeah. I think it's a movie that, especially as far as the Best Picture nominees go, is going to go, and it's the fact I didn't win anything, it's going to go under some people's radars, but definitely watch it if you haven't watched it yet.
Are you implying that the best movie that came out last year to you objectively was not nominated for Best Picture?
No, that's not necessarily what I want to imply. I don't know exactly what I'm trying to say here. I just go with what I'm trying to say is if I could pick out of the nominees picked, I'd say Past Lives I'd pick as Best Picture. I don't even think my number 1 I would say is necessarily the best, but
I would maybe say if I could give Best Picture to anyone, I maybe would say Zone of Interest.
Yeah, that's up there too.
I would say Zone of Interest, Poor Things, or Past Lives.
It's
probably,
hard to explain my feelings on it, but I just love Past Lives a lot.
Or I just need to rewatch Oppenheimer.
Sure. Number 5 for me, Godzilla -1.
That's what I have number 1.
Wow, really? Number 1. I mean, you said it's condensed, but
it was going back and forth between 2. And again, I've only seen them once.
Yeah.
I loved this movie. It was one that I was like, oh, this is pretty good. Like when it started, I'm like, hey, there's some good stuff to this. And then, oh my gosh, I care about these people. And it's so much, this little cast of characters they got together is so much fun. And these little set pieces that are going on. And I'm invested in this guy's relationship with this lady, and they've got this cute little girl, and oh my gosh, this is so like good. And Godzilla is just that guy's hair is just so cool. And then they're like, hey, here's our sciencey plan to take on Godzilla. And I'm like, this is legit. And then the whole third act is the best third act of any movie this year. And that includes Oppenheimer.
The more it sits with me, I have to say, I probably think it's the best Godzilla movie. I think like the original has a lot going for it, but I think the main difference is while that one has a lot of the social commentary and everything that Godzilla was originally known for, is really
this one has plenty of social commentary.
But the main difference between this and that one is that I feel like I don't really remember anything about the characters in that original movie. I don't remember. I mean, they could be great. I don't know. I mean, a lot of people say the original is the best one still. But I still remember a lot about like the main character in this movie months after seeing it. The music's so good too.
I cried. I did. I honestly cried. It was so good. This was such a fun movie that just came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Not on my radar in the slightest. Again, we were deciding between this and Saltburn.
Yeah.
And just was like, you know what?
Let's go here.
Saltburn, not as good.
I have seen Saltburn. It's on my top 10.
You did end up seeing it?
I did see it. It's not my top 10 though.
Godzilla -1. Yeah, I have it number 1. Could easily be number 2. I could easily have swapped out my top 2.
Sure. Yeah. Great
there
movie.
There we go.
Number 4. The only movie on this list that you haven't seen, Jimmy, Bottoms.
It is on. Okay, Bottoms.
Yeah, I love Bottoms. It's so funny. I honestly think it is probably the funniest movie of last year. Just a really good. I'm not sure I'd necessarily call it
not
raunchy.
That rom-com zone of interest or anatomy of a fall.
But it's. I think it's on Amazon Prime now. For those of you
at MGM Plus.
Oh, that too. I think it's
Amazon Prime.
Yeah. It's just a weird, surreal high school movie. Like it's a high school comedy, but there's so many just like weird things in it that feels like a very heightened reality. The movie does not take itself very seriously. I think the performances are very good. It's the same director as another movie I quite like called Shiva Baby. And the lead actress in this, or one of the lead actresses in this, is also the lead actress of that movie. Great in both. But yeah, hilarious movie. Jimmy, I think you'd think it's very funny. Awesome. So you need to watch it.
Well, this is your movie that's not on mine. I definitely have one that's not on yours, I think.
Okay, probably. Number 3, I have Barbie.
Barbie. Yeah, I put Barbie number 8.
Yeah, Barbie. It is the highest of the Best Picture nominees on my list, just because I think it is the fun. It's the one I'll see myself going back to the most. Yeah. I had the most fun with it.
I lied. I saw Barbie twice. That was the one movie I saw multiple times last year.
I think I've only seen it twice. But yeah, it's another just hilarious movie. It has so much like heart behind it. Ryan Gosling stand out.
Greatest living actor.
Is great too. Greta Gerwig did a great job, and she and Noah Baumbach with the script and everything. Just very, very good surprise with last year.
They delivered. I mean, we had faith in them from the beginning, not to toot our own horns, but we were like, Noah Baumbach and Greta, like Noah, the guy who wrote Marriage Story, and then Greta Gerwig.
Yeah.
And then you got Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling. Like, this is going to be
we have been supporters of this movie.
We have been like we want to see this Barbie movie for a long time. It's been documented. Go back, check it out. But yeah, no, Barbie was excellent. It's really good. Again, this could go easily fly up several spots on my list.
Yeah. Number 2 for me, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
I had it number 3.
Number 3?
Yeah, nice. I didn't realize that. I was like, as I was going back through, I'm like, yeah, that was a really good movie. I saw that movie twice too. So
there's a few.
couple of movies. I think those are it though.
Okay. Yeah, Across the Spider-Verse. I mean, it's Into the. I probably like it more than Into the Spider-Verse at this point. The only thing that keeps it is the fact that it's like not a complete story or everything, but it's just the animation is just so good.
Music
it's insane. Is great too. Music is fantastic. It's a very interesting story. I love the villain. The Spot is so good.
It was the best animated feature of last year.
Yeah. Well, it was my favorite, but yeah, it's just fantastic movie. And I mean, it's remained at number 2 on my list for pretty much the entire year. So,
I think I know what number 1 is then.
Yeah, number 1. It's been on my number 1 for a year now, over a year now.
This was the one I had number 1, and I switched it with Godzilla, but I could easily have it at number 1.
Is this number 2 for you?
Number 2. Yeah.
Okay, John Wick Chapter 4.
Incredible movie.
Banger movie. My God.
The only reason I need to see it again.
Yeah.
I was like, if I would have had time to sit down and watch it again, that could have cemented it for number 1 or put it number whatever.
Yeah. It is an incredible movie, an incredible feat of stunts and everything. Deserved its own Oscar in that regard. Keanu Reeves just clearly loves doing this. It's so much fun seeing him do it. You got like Donnie Yen in it doing some great stuff.
Hiroyuki Sanada.
Yeah.
Just legends.
Very, very good actors. I mean, I've always been a vocal supporter of the John Wick lore, thinking it's hilarious and just very, very kind of campy. Yeah, Ian McShane's in it, and Lance Reddick in one of his final roles. Yeah, just fantastic. That last third. You were saying like, what was it? Godzilla minus one had the best third.
You know what?
John Wick Chapter 4 is up there.
It is up there. Those two are giants.
It's really hard. That last third is just insane. But yeah,
such a good movie.
Yeah,
it is.
We just left that movie theater like that. I know I love a movie when I'm like sitting there with my mouth agape for a good part of it. Like I always think back to when I first saw La La Land. When I saw Another Day of the Sun, I was that way watching that for the first time. Same. And so, you know, when I had that with John Wick Chapter 4, I'm like, yeah, this is something special, I think.
Yeah. Again, I just need to see it again.
Yeah.
Just to
I haven't seen it. I think I saw it twice in theaters.
So good. One of the greatest action movies ever made.
Incredible. And it is cool because, I mean, you don't see it. Not a lot of people are putting it at number 1, but there are a lot of people that have it in their top 10, even though it's not like an Oscar nominated movie. So.
It should have. They need to make awards for it. When they were talking about the stunts, they showed several clips from this.
Yeah,
we were laughing at the stare bit just because you forget how just absurd it is. And that's like the least impressive, maybe even of the set pieces in that movie.
Yeah,
I don't even know. There's so many of the greatest action scenes I've ever seen in my life are in that movie.
Absolutely. But yeah, we can go through your list and then we can talk about some honorable mentions. But what are the ones on the list that I didn't have?
I had to make a top 11 because I was determined to have this movie number 10, and then I remembered that I didn't put Guardians of the Galaxy in there.
Okay.
And I liked Guardians of the Galaxy more than this movie. But number 11, I have Saw X.
Yeah, that's an honorable mention for me.
I mean, the return to form in the franchise of Saw reignited just the whole Saw universe, and we're getting the movies annually again the way it was meant to be. Crank them out.
This is what cinema intended.
Yeah, put your hand in the thing, get it chopped off. A Saw movie comes out. Pretty sure that's how it works.
Yeah, I mean, in my heart, this is in top 5 probably. Honest, I think Saw X is but I don't know. It's so good.
Yeah, I just had to find a place for it. Really good. Great Saw movie. Then at number 10, I have The Holdovers. Which did you not have that on your list?
I didn't. It's honorable mention.
Oh wow,
I really liked Holdovers.
What was the other one that you had that I didn't have then? I don't know. Then 9, I had Guardians of the Galaxy. 8, Barbie. This is the one I had that you didn't have. 7, they cloned Tyrone.
Yeah, it's honorable mention for me.
A movie that I think really flew under the radar. I was really excited. I watched the Cinefix top 10 of 2023, and they included this because they made a whole bit about how Oppenheimer and Barbie came out July 12th or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And then they're like, but the best movie July 12th was actually They Cloned Tyrone. Which I was like, hey, I'm glad that they highlighted it because I freaking love this movie. And again, this could be a top 3 movie for me too. I really enjoyed it. There's so many good lines, lots of funny little quips in there. Jamie Foxx is excellent. John Boyega was fantastic. Really good movie.
Yeah. You have me to thank. I suggested we do that. So.
Netflix. Check it out.
It's on Netflix.
And then listen to
go
our
watch
review.
it. Absolutely. Yeah. So good.
I could ski it.
Yeah, what's it he says? I could ski on this.
Yeah, I could ski that with the cocaine or whatever.
Yeah, that was a good line. I can't remember what it was, but it was something funny.
Then 6, Poor Things. 5, Zone of Interest. 4, Past Lives. 3, Across the Spider-Verse. 2, John Wick Chapter 4. And A Partridge in a Pear Tree. No, Godzilla. -1 at number 1. Again, John Wick 4. Godzilla -1. Went back and forth between them.
So good. The other one I had on my list that you didn't have was Killers of the Flower Moon.
Oh yeah, that's what it was.
Couple honorable mentions. I'll just quick mention. Asteroid City came really close to being in my top 10. Really loved that. I thought that's another one grown on me. I think it's one of Wes Anderson's recent best. Oppenheimer's in there. Boy and the Heron's in there, as you said. Holdovers. And then I also Saw X and They Cloned Tyrone are in there as well. But it's just banger year.
Really solid year.
And let me real quick go through my bottom 10.
Yeah,
like
let's
I always
hear it.
do.
Let's hear it.
I will say, unlike this has been a very good year for movies. I do not feel quite as passionate about these bottom 10 as I think I did last year. I think last year I was really into it.
Oh my gosh. Last year I made a list.
Yeah,
That's how bad it was.
Granted, the bottom couple on these I do really dislike.
But are they worse than Madam Web?
I don't know. My bottom one, I don't think it's worse than Madam Web, but I do dislike it more than Madam Web. So number 10, I have Shazam 2, whatever. Number 9, I have Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, whatever. Number 8, I have Knock at the Cabin, which was this was at the bottom for a long time. Knock at the Cabin was. I really did not like that movie, but it's not. I think I've softened on it. Exorcist Believer, number 7. Number 6, The Flash. Number 5, Little Mermaid. Number 4, The Nun 2, which you
What? You got The Nun 2 under all those?
Yeah, I don't know. An Exorcist Believer might be lower than that.
Exorcist Believers are way worse than The Nun 2. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Okay, I'll swap those. And not the ones in between. I'll just swap those. Number 3, I have Aquaman 2.
Oh gosh.
It's just the most nothing movie. But then the bottom 2, I have Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yeah, not good.
Pretty horrible. And Rebel Moon.
Rebel Moon wasn't that.
Rebel
Moon was not the worst.
Rebel Moon was, I think, the worst movie of last year. I hate that movie.
Okay.
That's the only one I really feel passionate about. But if you should go listen to our review about it, because I also hated it on that review.
Okay.
So.
All right.
Jimmy agrees to disagree.
Yeah.
That's okay. But that's it for our top 10 of the year.
Yeah.
Very exciting. Good stuff. Good year for movies.
Yeah.
Hopefully this year stacks up in a lot of ways. I am worried that nothing will surpass Dune Part 2, but Dune Part 2 is great, so maybe it doesn't need to be surpassed.
There we go. Yes. Stay tuned for that. Speaking of Dune, let's travel back in time. 1984. All right. David Lynch. He's come out with this hot new Star Wars ripoff, Dune. Mm-hmm. Let's dive into a spoiler discussion about this hot mess of a movie.
All right. Dune from 1984, directed and I think co-written by David Lynch. So David Lynch, obviously, you know him from various things, if nothing else, like Twin Peaks. But this movie,
The Elephant Man.
Yeah, Elephant Man. That was one of the ones before this. Yeah. But development hell on this movie.
Yeah.
Insane. There's a lot of things about before we get into it. So there's a documentary called Jodorowsky's Dune.
Which I really want to watch that. It's on Max, I think.
Yeah. And so Alejandro Jodorowsky was like this experimental filmmaker in like the 70s and whatnot. And he was attached to make a Dune adaptation. And I haven't watched the documentary, but from what I've read, it sounds insane. And apparently
Orson Welles was going to be the Baron.
Salvador Dali
was going to be. Yeah, who was he going to be?
Was he going to be the Emperor?
The Emperor or something, yeah. Pink Floyd was going to write the music.
Which I would have been hyped for that. That would have been awesome. But yeah, it was just this whole crazy thing, and it was going to be like 14 hours long.
Oh my gosh!
Like he was set on it being like 14 hours. I think I don't know how much of it they had filmed, but they had all this stuff made with it. The budget on this was ballooning, of course, with how long that is. But then it got passed on from him. Ridley Scott was attached at one point, apparently. But also, one of the things I should mention is I think it was on Jodorowsky's Dune. A lot of that creative team then did Alien.
Okay.
Like a lot of the people that I think H.R. Geiger was like one of the people that was designing for that Dune movie. So there's some connections there. But eventually got passed down to David Lynch, who made it like many years later. 84 came out. I think this movie is hilarious.
Yes.
I think this movie, it's a hot mess. I think it's very entertaining in a lot of ways, though.
Incomprehensible if you don't know the story.
Yeah, no, that's the thing is we watched obviously the new movies before this one. If we had not seen these movies, impossible to follow.
Well, you have the poster pulled up here. There is paragraphs of text on the poster.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Apparently, they handed out like sheets.
I was going to mention
help
that. I
guides
have it pulled up here.
When you when you go, it's double-sided.
I was really hoping I'd have it, but I didn't. My dad, he went and saw this in theaters, and he thought he still had this.
Oh yeah,
and he was gonna like send it up to me to like so I could have it on the podcast or whatever, but he couldn't find it in time. But yeah, it's just this whole like Dune terminology sheet. It's just a glossary of like how to pronounce everything.
Because it's just so light in the theater.
Yeah,
when there's literally, there are at least 30 words on this thing.
Oh yeah, and I don't think it even covers everything that you.
There's a paragraph on the Bene Gesserits.
Yeah, it's crazy.
They got pronunciations on this thing.
In some regards, I think there's something to respect a movie that's so just ballsy to just dive in like this. But there's no wonder why it flopped. Like it is incomprehensible completely. One thing I want to mention before we get too into the movie, and we're doing spoilers for this, by the way. But before I forget, Toto did the soundtrack to this. Hilarious. I think it's actually pretty decent for what it is.
But I mean, they didn't write like the theme though. The theme was written by someone else.
Well, yeah, but they performed and wrote a lot of it.
Yeah.
And it is pretty funny because there's just like certain parts in this movie where just electric guitars just come in, and Toto obviously being the band who did Africa. And
I was really hoping at the end, God bless the rain,
Yeah, no, it was pretty funny. But anyway, I went into this movie and I was expecting it to be a lot worse than it was.
I was expecting it to not be as bad as it was. I
had really low expectations.
I thought this movie was horrible.
I actually don't hate this movie as much as I thought I was going to. I don't think it's good.
There are things I like about it.
Yeah.
But
one of the things I'll say is I think the chunk of this movie that covers the events of like Dune Part 1, it is incredibly condensed, but I think it could be a lot worse in terms of how it's paced and everything. If you're trying to get everything into one movie, I was like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, here's the thing though, is they're so condensed, but there's so many points where nothing is happening in this movie. It's just like people walking or people just waiting for something. It's so slow. I'm like, why is this movie so slow if David Lynch is like, oh, I had to just condense everything so much, but it's just the pacing is just there's just a slug, a snail. That's barely moving forward.
There's certain parts of this movie that I think are incredibly entertaining, usually from a so bad it's good perspective. But yeah, there is just a lot of and this is a rare movie. I never do this. I watch this in 2 chunks. I don't usually do that, but I started watching it and I was falling asleep watching it. So I had to stop. I think I started Thursday night. I finished it Saturday morning. But
exposition dump. Just at the beginning, you get Princess Irulan.
So the exposition dump is really funny, and I started laughing at the point where she like fades out and then just comes back. It's like, oh yeah,
it's over. And then she goes, oh yes, I forgot to mention. What? What do you mean? What? Is that supposed to make it seem more natural? We literally just sat here listening for you talk for 90 seconds. You just couldn't have tacked that on there.
And I think there's some it's interesting, especially when we had Nick on the podcast when he was telling us the differences between the new movies and the books. So I was able to catch some things that he had said that were like in this movie that weren't in the new ones, but were probably from the book. Such as her like narration, which she apparently does throughout the whole book or something.
Yeah. So I'm 1/3 of the way through Dune, the book. I've been listening to the audiobook. And one thing I didn't realize, so in Dune Part 2, Denis Villeneuve's version, she's like recording it as like a journal. Like this is happening now, journal sort of thing, which was my understanding what it would be like. But in the book, it's like very historical. Like it's like all this has already happened, and I've written all these different texts about the life of Paul Atreides. So it's excerpts of these texts. So she's explaining Paul's life, and it's like Frank Herbert has drawn from different things that she's written and uses them at the beginning of each chapter thematically or to explore some sort of the Bene Gesserit, or a little bit about the Fremen, or Dr. Yui, or something like that. And so this is more akin to that, where it's like it starts in the year 10,191 or whatever it is.
Yeah. Apparently there was a TV version of this that was made longer. Apparently David Lynch is doesn't like it and took his name off of it.
Yeah, his name taken off.
But apparently it has like even more exposition at the beginning.
Well, okay, no, what I understand is they got rid of her part.
Yeah.
And they replaced it with concept art and like a voiceover, almost like Lord of the Rings prologue, where it was like 7 minutes, kind of like that, but worse.
yeah, worse than that.
And some people say it's that extended version what helps make the rest of the movie make more sense. It's just the beginning is even more of a slog because it goes from that Princess Erlin's, which that's bad. I mean, the opening title crawl of Star Wars is one thing. It's like when you just start talking and it's. Would you rather have a title crawl?
Yeah, well, I mean, okay, the thing with the title crawl in Star Wars is, one, it's very unique in how it's presented. It's short, and you also have, of course, John Williams' score over it, which this just doesn't hold a candle to. I don't know what I would have preferred. Yeah. I think this makes it a little bit more unique, and I can see what they were doing with it, but it's bizarre. Also, Princess Irulan is, that's the actress from the original Candyman, the main character in that, which I quite like that movie, but...
Dune, 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 Dune.
The cast in this, hilarious, I think, in a lot of ways. This was like Kyle MacLachlan, one of his first roles. He's frequent collaborator with David Lynch.
I thought he was good, but way too old because Paul Atreides is supposed to be 15.
Well, I don't know how old he actually was when this movie came out because I don't even know how old he is now, but like this was like the beginning of his career. So he just looks too old, I would say. I think the Harkonnens are hilarious.
Yes.
They're weird. They are it's a completely different vibe than what Denis was doing with his new movies. But in some ways I really respect it. I think it's just going full weirdo with it. And I think that's just a larger thing I like about this movie is just going full weird with it. Just not afraid to go weird with it. David Lynch, I mean, he's no stranger to doing strange things, but this movie is like, doesn't hold your hand. You've got the Harkonnens you got the Baron, who's just this pus-filled, gross guy. The Harkonnens in this are just redheads instead of bald. Bizarre. Yeah, and the scene where the Baron like flies up for the first time, it was so funny. I don't know what it was about it, but I was like, just the way it was like filmed and like the tone of the scene, I was like, this is very stupid.
Yeah, so I wish I would have been able to finish the whole book before seeing this, but being a third of the way in, the Baron, I mean, he's only in like the second chapter so far. Okay. Like and he talks to Phaedra and all that, but like that's. And Piter is there, the Mentat. But it's just it is not like this. Their conversations, but I mean, there's just so much exposition dump at the beginning of this movie because you get Princess Irulan, and then you have the scene with the Emperor, which awesome set. That set is so cool.
The sets in this, for the most part, I think are really good. I think a lot of the production design in this looks pretty cool. It's a lot of wasted money in a lot of ways, but clearly the budget's behind it. And
and lots of fantastic matte paintings as well.
Yeah,
which is a shame because a lot of the special effects look really bad.
Yeah,
but the costumes, I think the sets look pretty cool and have aged very well. Particularly that Emperor's throne room.
I was wondering, I wrote it down here. So in this, the Emperor's plan is just like revealed immediately. Yeah. Like what he's doing. Is that the way it is in the book?
In the book, they're like, this is what happens. Yeah. Oh, okay. No, like in the book, there is no, and it's not like Denis Part 1 at all, where it's a mystery of what's happening. Well, in this movie, they don't even say it's Dr. Yui right away, right? That's still part of it's like we won't say who the traitor is or something.
I can't remember if I just went in like knowing it was Dr. Yui.
I don't think they say. In the book, it literally is like Dr. Yui does it. And Princess Irulan's like things, it's like, well, yep, this is the story of how the House Harkonnen destroyed House Atreides, and the Duke dies and Dr. Yui betrays it. Like at the beginning, it's just right at the beginning of the book. It's like, okay, wow, we're doing it. And then it's kind of, okay, now how did we get from where we start in the story? How did it get there, and what happened in between, and all these nuances that are kind of lost in history? Because Princess Irulan's kind of saying that, the people of her time just see the Duke as like this buffoon who walked right into this trap.
Yeah.
But it's a lot more complicated than that. Like if you know the actual story, you'd know he wasn't like hoodwinked very easily, is whatever she says. Which is true. The book is like, there is just an overwhelming sense of dread and despair in House Atreides. And they're like, we are going to die. And the Duke is trying to convince everybody, look, we realize that we're walking into this trap. But there was a line in here that's from the book that Thufir says, Hawat, the Atreides mentat, who's like, the first thing about avoiding a trap is knowing that you're in one or something. It's pulled directly from the book. But yeah, they're like, this is layers within layers within layers, and we need to think through it. Now, in the movie, they're like, well, we have all these weirding guns modules.
Okay. So yeah, well,
I'm like, what?
I don't.
Did
understand.
I miss something in the book? Yeah, no, that's just not a thing.
Well, so I texted my dad a little bit about the movie, and he didn't say much about it, but he was like, one of the things he really hated was them just adding the weirding stuff, which is like, first of all, not in the book apparently.
Well, there's the apparent. Okay, I haven't really gotten to this yet, but there's the weirding way, which is like a Bene Gesserit special form of fighting. They took that and they made it just guns in this with the voice module thing. Yeah,
and it's just not really explained very well in this movie. Like, I was very confused exactly what it was throughout most of it. It was bizarre. I don't know, just unneeded. Well, before we, while I'm still thinking about the throne room scene, what is a guild navigator? What is that stuff?
So,
is that in the book?
My understanding is that appears in Dune Messiah.
Okay.
Very, very strange.
Yeah. Not explained weird. At all.
Well, I love I saw this, so I watched the CinemaSins of this, and I thought this is a great point. How like they have this whole grand entrance for this like tank thing that looks like the train from Snowpiercer.
Yeah, it does.
And they enter it, and then they have another entrance of the thing floating to the front of, like, they couldn't have just opened it. It was all right. It's like, oh my gosh, this movie is again so condensed but so slow at the same time.
Yeah.
And then the Emperor's like, well, my plan is to have House Atreides be, I'm giving them Arrakis, so then I'm going to team up with the Baron Harkonnen, who are the Atreides enemies. It's just like the worst dialogue and delivery I've ever heard.
All of the dialogue in this movie is either exposition or it's catching you up to what's happened in between scenes that the movie just doesn't have time to show you.
But it's like you go from Princess Irulan to that, and then you go to Paul sitting at that computer where it's just like, well, again, I thought they weren't supposed to have computers too. So I was like, what? Okay. And then it's like, here are the 4 planets. Here's what you need to know about the 4 planets.
And you don't even really need to know that stuff. It's all like some of the that's another comparison with the new movies. Is I've praised those movies for telling you what you need to know, and it just like in choosing what it tells you, and then being vague about some things, but usually just things you don't necessarily need to know to understand the movie. And this movie just doesn't seem to understand that at all. It's just, they'll explain everything and also nothing and way too much that's unnecessary. It's bizarre.
Well, the biggest gripe to be had with this movie is it just doesn't even hold the themes of the original story.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like the whole story is about like that this guy, this kid taking power and becoming this messianic figure in a way that's supposed to be like,
and that's troubles that come with
like
that.
That's like disturbing.
Yeah,
but at the end of this movie, it's
heroic.
Like, yeah, it's like,
brings the rain back down to Africa.
Which is apparently not a thing that happens. I looked that up. It does not happen in the end of the book.
Sense.
It is like quite contrary to what Frank Herbert
I think that was
wanted.
another thing my dad said. It was like, yeah, he hated that.
He is the Queen's Hammerack, Aaliyah, the little girl.
Should we say that now, or should we wait? We can just mention it. I
hilarious.
Yeah, I think the little girl gives a pretty good performance, and I think it's like a really cool concept that was, changed for this new one, but just completely just shows up in this movie. And
just kills the Baron.
Yeah, just kills the Baron.
What is happening?
It's so bizarre. They just mentioned in like a montage, like, oh yeah, she was born with the powers of a Bene Gesserit or something like.
That thing that you're vaguely aware of from this movie.
Yeah,
kinda.
I do like even more vague about this.
I thought the Bene Gesserit design was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was cool.
I thought the whole sequence with the gum Jabbar actually was pretty cool too. Like you see his hands kind of exploding and all that.
Yeah, and then he pulls it out and nothing's.
Yeah.
Should we talk about the shields?
Oh my gosh. Boy, they are worse than I remember them being from the clips.
Yeah, the shields that are very, subtle and cool, and the new ones, they make you look like a Minecraft character in this.
Worse than that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just
easily the worst special effect in the movie. I don't know exactly what they were thinking with that. Granted, I don't know, I guess if I were David Lynch, I probably would have just been like, okay, my shield is on, and I don't know, have some slight visual difference.
Hand-drawn lightning sparks coming out of it.
Yeah.
Back to the Future, all the lightning in that's hand-drawn. Force lightning from Return of the Jedi would have been hand-drawn onto that and illuminated through the film. So just little sparks kind of flying when you hit the shield. Mm-hmm. It is. You cannot tell what's going on at all. I mean, it just nothing.
No, it's so funny. Patrick Stewart as Gurney.
Gurney Halleck.
That was pretty funny. I wasn't expecting that.
And then also just nobody uses shields anymore. No. In the rest of Duncan, Idaho turns one on randomly.
I did want to mention, I'm looking at my notes here. Duncan, Idaho being the whitest guy to ever live is very funny after watching the new ones where it's Jason Momoa. Yeah. And he's just like a guy. It's whatever.
Just doesn't do anything either.
I don't know exactly what I meant. The next one I have here that I don't know exactly when this was, but Paul was having a vision, and just in the vision, Fade Ralpha shows up and says, "I will kill you."
I will kill you.
I thought that was really funny.
Edited in to be like,
it's pretty hilarious.
People are not understanding that this guy's. Who is this guy?
Yeah, who's this guy? And there's just
Sting was having so much fun. Though.
He was
chewing the scenery.
Good for him working with what he got. There's another scene too where he his vendetta. I mean, the Harkonnens don't like the Atreides. That's established, whatever. But he specifically just hates Paul in this for no reason.
Well, they all you need to kill Paul.
Yeah.
You mean the Duke Leto Atreides?
No,
Paul Atreides.
And they don't.
I wasn't here.
Yeah, he does say that. That's right. That's pretty funny.
And then I like the guy that was just with the Space Guild navigator who's just keeps giving the Emperor the eye.
You better listen to this big.
We're the ones with the real power.
Yeah.
Apparently, I think the Space Guild guys are actually in part 1 of Dune. When they have the whole ceremony, we're gonna sign the thing. They just have the big. You can't really see them at all.
I think I know what you're talking like in the background. Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
I'm excited to see them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were cool.
I mean, you get the whole sequence with the caterpillar guy. You folding the space when they're traveling.
Oh yeah,
then they have this, and then they do. That's when they do the hand drawn effects. Which I see what they're going for.
But it was so abstract. It was really hard to tell what was happening. You had no.
You
context,
skip it in part 1 with Denis Villeneuve, and you don't need it. You just they use the spice to get there.
Yeah, it's fine. Just use the spice.
It's not this super abstract thing made it. That much.
In the book, do they call it melange?
Yeah.
Okay.
They call it they call it both. They say the spice melange, and sometimes they refer to it as the melange, or sometimes just the spice.
And I don't think they ever say that in the new movies. But I
don't think they do say the melange.
No, I can't remember. I think it was SNL at one point. My earliest experience with this movie was there was some SNL skit that parodies the inner monologues in this and I think they mentioned the spice melange or something.
South Park did that one episode.
Oh, maybe that was it. Maybe it was South Park.
probiotics or whatever.
That could have been it. But yeah, my dad pointed out that it was from this, and I didn't know anything about Dune at the time.
The inner monologues.
Yeah.
Hilarious. Clearly just edited in later on.
Well, they are edited in later on. I mean, the scenes are filmed, like most of them are filmed, so like with the intention of putting in inner monologues. Like clearly there's just several shots of Kyle MacLachlan just standing there staring off, and then he's like thinking to himself or whatever. But it's so like, and I understand that's like a big part of the book to some extent.
Yeah. Yes.
So I understand when you're wanting to make an adaptation and you're taking some things pretty literally, but like Denis,
that's
don't
acting.
need that. Yeah, like Denis just like cut him out for the most part, aside from like the visions. And like it's fine, like understand it.
No,
like,
there's a ton of inner dialogue. Like one of my favorite scenes in the book is Dr. Yui is trying. He's like, oh shoot, like Lady Jessica is like a very good Bene Gesserit. She's gonna pick up that I'm a traitor. So he has like this whole play of how he is going to throw off his scent by like he just informally calls her Jessica instead of like Lady Jessica or something, and he's like he gets all flustered because of that, and like through his inner monologue, it's like he's like using it as a distraction. Like, oh, good, now she will see that I'm flustered because I called her the wrong title, and that will throw her off. So if she notices I'm sweating extra or whatever, I'm a little off. That's why. And then she's like, why did you say Harkonnen that way? And he's like, oh, well, what I do? Do I tell the truth or not? In the book, you find out that his wife, Wana, is actually a Bene Gesserit as well. So he is like, well, she taught... So he kind of knows some Bene Gesserit ways sort of thing to manipulate people or to kind of throw Bene... He knows, what the Bene Gesserit looks for, so then he can throw them off their scent.
Sure.
His scent. And so he's like, well, sometimes you just tell the truth. So he's like, well, the Harkonnens assaulted my wife, Wana, or whatever, that sort of something like that. And so she's like, oh, well, clearly you hate the Harkonnens, so you can't be a traitor. And
yeah.
There's a whole thing between where like Lady Jessica thinks it's Thufir Hawat and Thufir Hawat thinks it's Lady Jessica, and they've got a really cool back and forth in the book and stuff. And
yeah, but in the movie, it's doesn't really give you any real insight. It's just it's just the characters either saying and thinking things that you already know, or it's just like Paul Atreides, he seems like a good leader or something. I don't know. It's just like very basic observations.
Well, yeah, I mean, some of them are taken from the book, like Dr. Kynes, played by Max von Sydow, who is a man in the book too. That was something Denis changed. Yeah, and is the father of.
I thought it was fun. I was like, is that Max von Sydow?
Yeah, I was like,
he's not in it very much.
No, but that is a thing in the book where he's like, you know what? I kind of like this Duke Leto Atreides, despite my best judgment or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, there are the ornithopters. I mean, they just look so unintimidating.
Yeah. Just what I mean, I feel like that's the vehicles, the sand crawler, spice collector thing to an extent.
The shield wall that goes,
yeah,
it's like, and then they just fly over.
That's pretty funny.
What?
I will say, and I don't, maybe you disagree with this. I think the initial worm attack on the spice collector looks pretty good.
It looks phenomenal for 1984.
Yeah, I was
it looks incredible.
This looks like way better than the rest of the movie. It was like, obviously miniatures did it, but yeah, incredible perspective and everything with that.
There was a corridor digital video on this. I cannot remember what they did. But the sand looks incredible. The way the sand moves.
Yeah.
I think the explanation was they had to get really, really, really fine sand. That must have been it, because the sand, otherwise normal sand just doesn't scale.
Yeah.
It has to be that powdery. So I think that's what they did. But it looks phenomenal.
It does.
And I think the worms look great. I actually prefer the design, like the basic design, the more Demogorgon mouth looking thing, as opposed to the Sarlacc pit looking mouth of the Denis versions. But
But
So,
it's that stuff looks great. Holds up pretty well.
The riding the worm though,
Hilarious.
just looked terrible.
It's like
especially when he's just holding on. To the side.
It's so like it
blue
seems
screen.
like it has like no energy when he's like getting onto it. He just kind of jumps on and then climbs up, and it doesn't look very good.
The blue screen in this movie is just terrible. I mean, the shot where you have the whole sequence when the worm guy space guild dude is folding the space, using the spice. And then it just is like that ship is just like dissolved. It looks like a 2D image just dissolved and moved into like this very just slapshot drawing of Arrakis that just looks like the most generic blank looking planet ever. There's no atmosphere and it just looks so terrible. But then you have these gorgeous matte paintings and these amazing sets, brilliant costumes, tons of extras. It just is so weird.
Yeah, it is bizarre. But
I mean, ILM was busy making Return of the Jedi.
That's true. David Lynch was approached to direct that movie.
Well, yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, that's bizarre. There's like an interview with David Lynch where he had like lunch with George Lucas. He was like, George Lucas invited him to lunch to like ask him, and he was like, I cannot think of anything I want to do less than direct this movie. But he took Dune. So
Mentat eyebrows. Thufir's eyebrows,
Yes.
Piter's eyebrows.
Big eyebrows, very big eyebrows.
You can tell they're human computers by their eyebrows, apparently. I love how Dr. Yui is like, the tooth. It's like got that close-up shot of his lips.
The tooth.
The tooth.
I mentioned there's a pug in this movie.
That's either. And then when there's the Harkonnen attack on House Atreides, Patrick Stewart has the pug. He's like, oh, the Duke Leto. I'm like, why is he just bringing this puppy into battle? Why is there a pug in this movie?
I don't know. I don't know. On some regard, I'm like, maybe they just wanted something that like the audience can relate to, but I don't know. Bizarre.
Paul and Chani, just like second scene. Just making
horrible character.
Just
horrible relationship.
No development.
I think, like I said, I do think the first hour and a half or whatever of this movie, while it doesn't explain anything, there could be a worse like condensation.
Could be
that
worse.
Part. Yeah, like it hits all the main beats and everything, so that's fine. But the last hour of this is some of the most rushed like storytelling I've ever seen in my life. It's so.
And then the next 2 years passed. And
there's like, and then Paul and Chani's relationship blossomed or something. It was so weird. Oh, I wanted to mention David Lynch plays the spice worker on the crawler. That. Yeah, that is calling. Like he keeps cutting back to or whatever, and it's David Lynch.
Damn the spice. It's in the book too. It's in all of them. You gotta have that
spice.
You gotta have that line.
I have this note here from around this point in the movie where I say I'm kind of liking this weird little freak movie. So do kind of like it. Let's see what else. Yeah. I thought the poison breath was hilarious.
Yes.
Very funny effect there. The Baron was seemingly not really affected by it. They just come in. He's like, "Am I alive?
I'm alive." And he like throws whatever into his hand.
It just floats up. The Baron was very funny in this movie.
He was great.
Yeah. Another actor just chewing the scenery, really. And you haven't gotten to this part in the book, so I don't know if it's different. They fly immediately to the southern region.
Yeah, I don't know how they get to that.
That was
part.
bizarre to me. I was because having only seen the new movies, that was like a big deal to them. Was like, oh, getting to the southern region, it's a big trek, and there's this other faction that they meet up with first, and it takes
and like I'm going to become a homicidal, maniac if I do this.
All that,
but billions of people are going to die. You know what? No, I'm just going to do it.
Like literally, as soon as they meet the Fremen, which also them meeting the Fremen was so funny too.
It's like a jump scare.
Yeah, it was like out of nowhere. And then they just like immediately trust them. The
Fremen have no culture other than riding sandworms.
Yeah.
It's just like there's nothing.
No. The guy who plays Stilgar in this is another Twin Peaks actor I recognized, but I don't know him from anything else.
The Fremen just become their army.
Yeah.
I mean, Which is interesting because in the book, that's like, like the whole thing with desert power that's in the book, that line. But Duke Leto, one of the reasons, so in this movie, they're like, well, we have these guns and we'll just give the guns to the Fremen.
Yeah.
In the book, they're like, Duke Leto is like, let's go to Arrakis because I'm going to turn the Fremen into my own Sardaukar army. It's kind of like his viewpoint of them. He's just like wants to manipulate them.
Sure.
Really, rather than like an alliance. He's just, I want them to become my slave army.
Okay. Wow.
So it's like, but then I think he gets an appreciation for them. But like, that's where he starts off. You definitely get a lot more of the Duke in the book than I thought the guy who played the Duke in this was really good. I liked him a lot.
Yeah, no, I did too.
I thought he was one of the better casted characters, really, of everybody. Duncan Idaho literally does nothing.
Yeah.
Although at this point in the book, I'm at the point where basically the Harkonnen attack is just beginning. Dr. Yui's just basically installed the tooth. It's just the scene that I just finished. Duncan Idaho has like not been in the book at all.
Really?
I was very surprised. I thought he was going to be like a major character where they cut out a lot for him and for each adaptation, but so far... No,
maybe he plays like
later on.
Maybe like the part in the movie where they're out in the desert and it's like a bigger part for him in the book. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. This he's just unceremoniously just killed.
Yep. I knew it was condensed. I was still wondering if he was going to come back at any point, but no, just dies.
No.
Gurney comes back randomly. They just find him.
Yeah.
Again, like
Smuggler.
Yeah, smuggler. What was this? So before they meet up with the Fremen, when Jessica and Paul get attacked by the worm or whatever, Paul takes the biggest fall, like off this rock face, and it was so long he kept falling.
And
that was another
okay.
part. Yeah, that was another part I was laughing at. It was so funny. The Fremen trusting Paul and Jessica so fast. Yeah. They give him the name Muad'Dib right away.
Yeah. And Usul.
Yeah, and Usul. They just give him two different names and they don't really explain it at all. So Thufir has to milk a cat. Remember that?
I forgot about that scene.
That's a scene that comes into play not at all later.
I totally forgot about that weird scene.
Yeah, so the Baron, because that's when the Baron and Fade Routha, they get Thufir, which... Nick had mentioned was a part in the book that they take him as like their new mentat or whatever. And so they're like, hey, you have to milk this cat. Like we poisoned you and you have to milk this cat to get the antidote every day or something like that. It was so weird. And then they never go back. Yeah. And they never go back to Thufir in this movie at all. I don't think. Is bizarre.
I think they randomly show him at the end again in like the throne room. I think there's a shot of him being like, "Oh yeah, he's here." Lots of Thufir in the book, I will say. Okay. Lots more Thufir in the book. Definitely a major player.
Is he good in the book? You like him in the book?
Yeah, I like him. I mean, he's even bigger than Gurney Halleck, I would say, in the book.
Okay,
at least so far.
Yeah. I mentioned my name is a killing word. That was a dumb quote. When Paul
and then they don't even like, they just go Shah or
Esau. Yeah, they don't even say his
I like how the whole
name.
point of like Dune is that they have hand-to-hand combat, and then in this they just give them guns.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's I should have mentioned it at the beginning. I mean, part of the reason why this was so like important to get out and why people wanted it made was because of Star Wars, right? Like, I mean, everyone wanted their own big sci-fi kind of epic or whatever, and so then you have this book. It's very rich in lore and everything that came out before Star Wars that Star Wars probably took some from. Like, yeah, you could make a movie out of it, but it's just, they tried to make it, in some cases, a little too much like Star Wars. But at the same time, it's just incomprehensible.
Some good practical explosions in this. Like, I think it's the shield wall gets blown up, and it's like a whole line.
Yeah,
it looks really great.
That looked really great, yeah. I mentioned that they're just rushing through the various battles and character development that part 2 covers for like 2 hours.
Yeah.
So it was just a montage, essentially. I also wrote down the quote, Aaliyah is maturing at a frightening rate, but she is not shown at all prior to that happening. Yeah. Thought that was funny. The water of life sequence where he drinks the water, I thought was just nonsense.
And then they just randomly are like, oh, his mom did it too.
Yeah. Yeah.
By the way,
Bizarre.
it's in the book. I guess we better add it in here.
His speech to the Fremen towards the end of the movie where it says "Long live the fighters" was a very empty and short speech. It was like the least inspiring speech I've ever heard.
Long live the fighters.
Yeah.
Again, cool set.
Oh, this is another quote I thought was really funny. Usul, we have Wormsign the likes of which God has never seen. The way that the guy says it is so funny in the movie. Oh my God. Loved it. And also the Reverend Mother saying, "Get out of my mind" to Aaliyah. Gosh, there's some good
Kill
bits.
that abomination.
Yeah. Some good stuff. Let's see. The Baron gets eaten by a worm.
Yep.
Yeah, all
He
right.
just floats into the worm and then it
eats him. I said I wanted to mention that all of the like kind of climactic battle stuff is just so long. Like I it's not even like necessarily that long, but it's very repetitive. Like there's just all, people just shooting at each other, nameless soldiers, just wide shots of people shooting each other. Some cool explosions in there that look good, but yeah, it's just hard to tell what was happening. I also mentioned that Paul, when he's talking to the Emperor, he says "we Fremen." I'm like, dude, you just got there like 2 days ago.
we have this saying, something about God. I'm God now. It's probably a quote from the book. That makes a lot more sense there.
Yeah, probably. And then Paul makes it rain.
Yeah.
Very.
He is the Quetzal's Hattera.
Yeah, whatever Leah says.
Oh my gosh.
Apparently that actress still acts and stuff. That was like her first role, but she still does stuff. Yeah. I don't know what else about this movie. It's very, very stupid, very funny in a lot of ways. I don't think it's a movie I'm going to go back to frequently, but it is a movie that has enough little bits to it that I think it has like a little bit worthwhile to it. Yeah. I think if you really like the new Dune movies, like if you're really interested in Dune, it might be worth checking this out in some degree. It is very slow. That's the warning I would say, but it's very, very interesting, if nothing else. Completely turned David Lynch off from big budget filmmaking from then on. He just hated it working on this. So
there we go.
Hates talking about it.
Dune, 1984.
If I were to give, I'll give a rating.
Okay, yeah, let's hear it.
I think it's like a 4 out of 10 for me. It's there's a lot of the technical stuff. There's a lot to be admired here, but it is, and it's not as bad as I was expecting personally. But it is not nearly on the same level as the new ones.
The story is horrible. I mean, as an adaptation of a story, it's awful.
Yeah, it
to not even be thematically similar, even like just in the same ballpark.
Well, it's a lot of the bigger movies, especially back then, I think took less risks maybe in that regard. But yeah, it's just so strange. It's just oh yeah, he's just a good guy. He's helping the Fremen out and wants to take back Arrakis.
Yep, there we go.
There we go.
Dune, 1984. Everybody,
hilarious.
Let's go on to our last segment of the show, which of course is What Are You Doing?
What are you doing? What are you doing? No, what are you doing? What are you doing? No, what are you doing? What are you doing?
All right, Jimmy. So this week, I didn't watch a ton, actually. I was kind of focused on finishing Neon Genesis Evangelion mostly because the movie is playing in theaters on Wednesday, so I want to go see that. But I need to finish the series first. I've got like 4 or 5 episodes left. Getting utterly bizarre. It is disturbing. It's weird. Last week I said things were going too well and things were going too well. I'd say it is incredible. I mean, I see why it's considered like one of the best, if not the best anime, like this Cowboy Bebop, some others, like really, really good. So I'd recommend it. We'll see. I'll come back next week having seen that, having seen the movie and everything. I did watch the On Cinema Oscar special for this week, which no one cares, but I quite like On Cinema. So once again, knocked it out of the park. Insane what they get away with on this show. Like with a lot of their few most recent Oscar specials, it just gets incredibly dark and disturbing at the end, and it works somehow. They're geniuses. I don't know. Watch On Cinema. I need to talk. Jimmy, if you watched On Cinema, that would be a blessing.
Okay. How often do they make new stuff?
They come out with like, I'd say they come out with something new like every few months, but it's usually not much. They do like a season and then the Oscar special that's like once a year at most.
Okay.
But each episode's like 20 minutes max, but especially early on, they're like less than 10 minutes.
How much of a following do these guys have?
It's like very devout. It's one of those things that it's kind of
small devout following. Yeah. But like if you had to put a number on it, is it like
I mean obviously thousands because they have the budget. I would say tens of thousands. I'm not sure I would say hundreds of thousands. It is really hard to tell.
Well, like how much it's on YouTube, right?
A lot of it is.
How many YouTube viewers do they have?
A lot of their early stuff is into the millions.
Okay.
But as the farther you get, obviously it drops off more as more and more is required to watch. But yeah, the big thing is that it just requires a lot to get into, but everyone like that loves it really loves it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, and I'm one of those people. Hilarious stuff, especially it's like early on, it's basically like a parody of what we do in a lot of ways. Okay. So there's some good stuff there. But yeah, did that. And then outside of that, I didn't watch any other movies, but I've been watching. Oh, I have been rewatching first season of The Bear as well because I want to watch the new season of that. But I'm just playing Final Fantasy, plugging away at that. That's so good, so good. So I'm amazed I have not gotten anything spoiled for me in it yet. So I'm kind of trying to finish it before that happens.
There you go.
So, what about you, Jimmy? What have you been doing?
Well, other than I talked a lot about Dune, so I won't be doing that more here. But a third of the way through the audiobook, I'm really enjoying it.
Sure.
Yeah. I'm surprised that like it helps to see the movies, right? Because you get all that stuff. You kind of just know all the vocabulary. You don't need the sheet they hand you, before you go into the movie in 1984. But I'm surprised at like how fast paced it is, and just how it's written. Like I didn't realize this, but he wrote it for like a general audience. Mm-hmm. Like he didn't write it for a sci-fi nerd. So it's like
interesting.
It's dense, but it's not very dense. Like it's more of like if you know what the words are, it's the stories.
Yeah,
like it's just a lot of
that
lore.
You've seen the movies.
It does, but it's like he doesn't throw it all at you, and it's not like oh, I'm gonna start going on a whole tangent about the Spacing Guild and what's going on with the Spacing Guild. It's like he'll just mention them, and then you'll get another little bit of information, like a chapter later, and then another little bit of information about them a chapter later. It's very spoon fed to you. It's not like, all right, here we go, and this is every food they ate at the feast, and here's this person, here's everything to know about that. No, it's very like it plays out very naturally and it's very palatable to just read or listen to. It's not overwhelming with information.
Well, I think what a lot of people expect is, I don't know if you've ever read it, but 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Have you ever read that? That book I think is a very, very good book. It's a classic for a reason, but there is so much of that book that is just them explaining how like the sub works that they're on for like no reason. Yeah. And that's just so much of this book. And I think that's what a lot of people think Dune is, but it's interesting to see that.
Yeah, it's really not.
Yeah.
I mean, cool. There's pieces of it, but it's not thrown at you all at once, which was I thought it would be more dense. So I think it's kind of a good thing that it's not. But then Emily and I watched Crazy Stupid Love, which I've never seen before.
Okay, so did you see the twist coming?
No.
Yeah. Okay. When I first watched that movie, that completely caught me off guard.
Wait, what?
I was like, oh my gosh,
Spider-Man Homecoming style.
Yeah, it is. I genuinely think it's one of the better movie twists out there, especially since people do not expect it at all.
Well, it's just not incredible. A movie that you would expect a twist in.
Yeah.
So it's like, wait, that culmination of the second act is wild.
Pretty good movie though.
It's like well made, well edited, well written, well acted. So it's like, yeah, it's a very solid movie. It's a little weird at parts, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Very entertaining. Has its moments. Ryan Gosling, and he's the greatest living actor. So there we go. But that's all I got, Holden. I just didn't realize that the Mark Wahlberg dog movie came out this week.
Oh yeah,
I missed it.
I forgot about that. I saw when I was making like the notes for this week. It's like, oh yeah,
what's his name? Like Arthur the King or something?
Yeah, Arthur the King.
Terrible title.
It's so weird.
Dog was already taken.
Yeah, true.
Channing Tatum.
Every big white guy in Hollywood needs his dog movie.
Yeah. What's next week, Holden? What do we got?
Next week, I cannot remember off the top of my head. It's either Ghostbusters or Godzilla versus Kong. Movies we are incredibly excited, and whichever it isn't is the next week. So I think it's Ghostbusters.
It is Ghostbusters.
Okay, wow. Yeah, so Ghostbusters Frozen Empire coming at you next week.
And then Godzilla X Kong the New Empire.
Mm-hmm.
Then Monkey Man.
Yeah, Monkey Man's been getting good reviews.
And then Civil War, which has decent reviews.
Yeah, I've been hearing mixed things, some good things, but
yeah,
Abigail.
So there we go.
Yeah, some things coming out.
Challengers.
Yeah,
the Fall Guy.
We just got to get through the next couple
Kingdom
weeks.
of the Planet of the Apes.
Just keep reading into the future. Furiosa is in there.
The Strangers, Chapter 1. Furiosa / Garfield.
Yeah. But anyway, if you want to leave us a request, which actually we didn't mention, technically this was a request.
This was a request.
So,
Dune 1984.
Yeah, it just happened to coincide that there was nothing coming out this week, and we were interested anyway. So this was a request. But if you want to leave us a request, you can do so by leaving us a 5-star review on iTunes or email us at tompodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, none of this honest 4-star review crap. We're flawless.
4-star review. You're not getting the request.
No melange for you.
Yes, exactly.
No.
But yeah, Ghostbusters next week. I think that's it, Jimmy.
Yeah. Well, I think we should begin every podcast in Sardaukar voice now,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. That's a good way to open those 2 new movies.
Yeah.
Good.
All right. That's it. Until next time. Adios, pantalones.
Love you.